And I'll start with our land acknowledgement. On February 23rd, we acknowledge that this sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We're grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and the water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for the contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which, as you know, runs through Smith Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. So I called the meeting to order at 5:02, and I'm seeking a motion to approve the February 23rd Committee of the Whole meeting agenda, be approved as circulated. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor McGuire. Any changes to that agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Be a good time to disclose any pecuniary interest or conflict of interest at this time. Seeing none. We do have a motion that the minutes of the February 2nd, 2026, February 9th, 2026, Committee of the Whole meeting be approved as circulated. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor McGuire. Any comment on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? And the minutes are approved as circulated. Thank you. We have no delegations, and I believe we may have one director's report.
We do indeed, Mr. Chair, and it's another good news report, I believe.
Director McMahon, welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, members of council, Mr. Chair. So as CEO Morris just mentioned, I do have some more good news this evening. So it does relate to the pothole prevention and repair program. It's a program that was put out by the Ministry of Transportation late last fall, back in November. So the program is around, or does fund Ontario municipalities with populations of 10,000 or less. So that does satisfy the eligibility criteria. So any municipality 10,000 or less could apply. Total provincial funding for this initiative from MTOs to the tune of $10 million. A little bit of stats here. There's 270 municipalities in Ontario with populations of 10,000 or less, Smith Falls being one of them. So that equates to approximately $38,000 per municipality if you do the simple math on that. The program is aimed at enhancing road safety and reducing vehicular damage due to potholes. I will note that it is pothole season right now with spring conditions. We do experience that obviously here in Smith Falls as well, not indifferent to anywhere else. Applications had to be submitted on or before December 12th, 2025, so we did meet that date. The town's application identified areas that were in need of repair through our hot mix asphalt patching program that we do on an annual basis through Public Works operating accounts. Following submission of the application, the town was notified it would receive $38,000, so the same number I noted earlier, for works completed between April 1st, 2025 and March 31st, 2026. So obviously tough to go out to do any hot mix asphalt patching this time of year or through the winter. So it would have more or less aligned with works that would have been done during the 2025 season, if that makes sense. So kind of retroactive back to 2025. Council's being advised of a transfer payment agreement with MTO under the program. Applicants were not required to have a bylaw or resolution passed by council. That's why you haven't seen it in front of council from November till now, as there was no requirement to do so. So I'm informing council that you don't need an agreement. We've already satisfied all the requirements. We will be receiving a check in the amount of $38,000. We can simply put that in our revenue account and we can apply it to retroactively back to 2020, 2025. Trusting that makes sense. So good news story is $38,000 of essentially money that we didn't have before.
I've had a question for many years, and I don't expect you can answer it, but why are potholes round? And it's not a joke. They're all round. And so I tried to Google it and I can't find the answer. So can you tell me?
I'm not sure.
All right.
I wouldn't say it's like crop circles. I don't think there's any aliens that are putting around circles in our roadways. But
Well, that's wonderful news. Thanks for applying. And I know you guys are always looking at those.
we are.
Mayor Pank.
And of course, the question is, how many potholes can be fixed for $38,000?
Oh, it's a good question. Yeah, so I did look at the application that my staff put together. So basically, what we did, we were looking for areas that had a history of potholes that we patch on a regular basis. So we identified some areas that Public Works would have went in, had our contractor grind out, and I don't want to confuse this with our asphalt, concrete, milling, and paving contract. Two different things. So in Public Works, we have primarily road cuts and stuff that we do around town for service, repairs, et cetera. But then we do have areas that are heavily potholed that we go in and we try to take those areas out and then we'll repave those areas. So I don't have an answer for your question, Mr. Mayor, but it would be $38,000 worth in this particular case, and then some.
It was more than simply repairing a pothole. It's taking stretches that are bad and resurfacing and repairing the asphalt there to prevent the problem getting repeating itself.
Yep.
After year.
Yeah, so potholes are the regulation that's in place would be the minimum maintenance standards. So we do follow that, not indifferent to when we do maintenance on the roadways in the wintertime for winter control operations. So there is timing based on the classification of roads when we have to respond to a pothole, when we have to fix it. So at times, we do get calls from residents that they hit a pothole or whatever, and what the municipality has, not indifferent to the other 444 municipalities in Ontario, that is what we fall back on as the minimum maintenance standards, which is helpful because we can't be everywhere all at once to repair these potholes. It does afford us some time to dispatch staff and do those repairs. Thank you.
This is a census year and might be the only year we were eligible because I have a feeling when the census data comes out that we're going to be over 10,000 population.
Right.
So
Great. Thank you.
thank you very much. Great news. Director Clark is going to come up and talk about strategic priority waterfront trail plan. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm here before you this evening seeking some clarity on Council's intent before staff proceed any further under Strategic Priority 3.1. As a refresher, the strategic initiative is noted as placemaking, activate and link waterfront areas, parks and paths to entice and attract visitors and residents to the waterfront at all times of the day and year round. So for transparency, there's currently $60,000 that is allocated for this project in this year's capital budget. Our strategic initiative dashboard indicates the successful deliverable as being a waterfront trails plan. Noting this, it's pertinent then to remind Council that you have already approved significant foundational work related to trails and connectivity, including trail standards, the Parks and Open Space Connectivity Plan, and an implementation framework. The remaining question then for us is not whether planning is required, but what Council intends by year-round waterfront activation. That phrase can reasonably mean different things. At one end, it can be a design principle, ensuring we don't limit future use to summer only. At the other end, it could imply year-round operations, staffing, and programming, which would represent a fundamental shift from our current seasonal operating model. As I noted earlier, the strategic priority itself is measured by Council's approval of a waterfront trail plan. It does not, on its own, establish a new service level. Before staff either assume expanded operations or invest limited capital dollars without clarity, we're asking Council to confirm how expansive you would like this initiative to be. The direction you provide tonight will guide how the existing $60,000 allocation is used for this year and in ensuing years. Whether toward further planning, toward incremental improvements that align with current operations, and will ensure implementation remains realistic, as always, fiscally responsible, and aligned with your expectations. And I would take any questions.
Thank you very much. I talked to Director Clark today, just acknowledging that 3 members are here, and if this wasn't time sensitive, that we could start the conversation tonight, but maybe if it was possible, the next cow to just finish it with Director Councillor Miller and Quinn and Brennan. It would be nice to have a more robust input, but as you say, let's start the conversation. Anyone? Questions, comments? Sure. Mayor Panko.
Thank you, Director Clark. Do we have any, so we stop our maintenance Thanksgiving, but people are still using our outdoor spaces and then particular our trails. Do we retain any data, or do we follow that usage at all through the fall and through the winter? I mean, I think people will walk a pathway, especially through, say, through Murphy Park and across the bridges and over to Abbott, regardless of whether it's maintained or not, maybe until a certain point, just because it's convenient. Do we have any understanding of how much things are used in the wintertime?
So that's a really great question, and if I may, I think the short answer is no. We can certainly get some of that information, but it's a little difficult unless we're standing there with a counter. As it is, so just for interest, we had some geolocation data around Lower Reach Park for 2024 collected, and we had about 400,000 visits to that space between May and October primarily. They figure about 50,000 was sort of outlying outside of those days, or outside those months rather. So that would be in the season that the park is closed. We could certainly look at collecting that, but we'd have to figure out how. It's difficult to when your spaces are built to have people coming in at any time of day and night, and the access is free and open. It's really difficult to sort of channel them through a gate to count who they are, how many are there and who they are. So it's not impossible, but we certainly don't have that information readily available right now.
I suppose we could put in like trail canters potentially at certain places. I'm thinking especially Murphy Park and through the bridges in that area as an area if we're going to maintain something that worth considering possibly. The loop of Lower Reach, I mean, I know it gets well used until the snow gets probably too deep. But overall, and any steps forward with regards to any type of winter maintenance is going to create a need for staffing and an additional cost. And we have any idea what the additional cost would be? If we want to keep them open, I'm sure it would be exorbitant cost for equipment and personnel to plow year round. Well, plow through the winter season, of course.
So, if I could, I think I'm hesitant to give any specific numbers because I think part of it is how expansive or not do you wish to be. We could be completely open. Obviously, playgrounds are accepted, but the infrastructure that exists in the park, we could look at grooming trails. We could for cross-country skiing and so on, not downhill skiing, but cross-country skiing. We could look at keeping our trails open in terms of actually plowing them, salting, sanding, whatever it might be. Those things are possible, but with time, energy, and money. The biggest thing is we would need some direction on, is it one trail? Is it all trails? We have 17 plus kilometers of trails across the community. That's a significantly bigger investment than the 1.5 kilometers that's in Lower Reach. So where do we want to start? I think if you can give me some direction, and not necessarily right now, but if we can have a better idea of what that might look like, then we can have a better understanding of how much that will cost, because that obviously 17 kilometers of trails to take care of is significantly different than 1.5 in terms of staff hours and equipment as well. So we need to sort of focus on that, and then we can hone in on some of the costing.
Okay, well, my first instinct is I'm not sure we want to expand services at this stage, but I'm interested, I guess, hear from my colleagues in a broader discussion at a future meeting.
Okay, Councilor McGuire?
Thank you. I think when I look at all the plans that we have attached to the report tonight, I think I've got a really good idea from those of what we need planning wise. So to get that, I think I'd be okay dropping the deliverable of having a waterfront activation plan or whatever that was called. I don't have it in front of me. When it comes to the winter maintenance on the trails, I think the footprints and they speak for themselves. Like it gets compacted, it's icy, and it's dangerous. And the second issue I see is that between Lower Reach Park and Beckwith Street, there's no garbage collection from Thanksgiving to May. So people walking their dogs, people with garbage, a lot of it ends up in the park during that time. So I'm wondering if we could start maybe at looking at extending the garbage collection season into the end of November, when it's unlike, if the snow comes, it's usually less than the winter time, and then maybe start in April when we are confident the snow's gone for the year. When it comes to the winter maintenance on the trails, I think it's going to be hard. A lot of our trails are soft surface and they're going to get muddy and soupy. So we've got the plan to add more hard surface trails and light the trails because it's darker in the wintertime. That's going to be a slow process. And as that process gets laid out, I'd like to see the winter maintenance conversation come with it. So maybe, it's not a matter of doing it 17 kilometers in 1 year, but maybe 500 meters gets paved 1 year. And then we can try to maintain that and slowly add to it as we build it. But if we're going to have this debate at another night, then that's all I've got for today.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
Councillor Robinson.
I just have a quick question.
Mhm.
Even though the trails are closed,
Mhm.
and they're not maintained, but people are still using them, how does that affect us liability wise?
So that's a good question. I mean, our insurance is always there, but we do strongly recommend that, or remind folks that it is use at your own risk, and that's helpful in terms of the reduction of liability. There's never none, but we do regularly post, and actually I had a conversation with our comms person just recently about sending out another reminder that trails and parks and playgrounds are not maintained between Thanksgiving and May long weekend. So just for those listening at home too, it's just a reminder, use at your own risk. So that's a key piece of it. And just if I may, on the garbage, we do actually have continuous year-round garbage pickup, but it's not in all the same locations. That one stretch that you're speaking of, that's our park, from heading into down Riverdale, heading into Lower Reach, it's difficult for us to get into that area when there's snow. So we don't actually have garbage cans there, but we do pick up in the park, and we pick up in Victoria, in Lower Reach, and in Victoria Park and Centennial Park as well. I think twice a week at least. So.
CEO Morse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to supplement Director Clark's response, I would say once you make a decision to winter maintain a trail, the liability increases. And so too does the opportunity for a slip and fall or a trip and fall. So that's not a reason not to do it, but it is a consideration that it becomes measurably a higher degree of liability. By actively maintaining it, you're inviting users, and there's an implicit statement that it's safe when you maintain it.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, I would be interested in learning a bit more about the implications if we extend the seasons. So, I mean, this is a bit of an unusual winter, but usually we have little enough snow till, let's say, December 15th. And usually by mid-April, the snow is gone, and people are eager to get out. Mm-hmm. And I just wonder what the impact would be if we began some operations a little bit earlier in the season to give people that opportunity to get out and enjoy the spring weather and the trails, at least in certain areas of town, like certainly Lower Reach being one.
So I had some thoughts that I'll share as people are. So one was closer to what Councilor McGuire was talking about. As we develop our trails, we future-proof them, or we say we maybe not going to run them year-round, we're going to build them for that, so that they can be maintained if we decide to do it. We would do that anyways. I think under the Accessibility Act, we would have to make them. We shouldn't build a trail unless it's accessible anyways. So as we upgrade, I'm assuming over time that they'll become built in such a way that we can do snow removal when we're ready, or year round. The other thought was, as you say, it's I wouldn't think that we would need to do all 17K at once. We could say this is the most popular, we're going to start here, or whatever. And on CEO Morse's point, I forget, is it 60 kilometers in sidewalks we have or something? 62, not bad enough. And it's exactly the same. So adding one more kilometer because it's a trail, you're right, it adds to our risk portfolio, but we know how to manage that risk. And so I'm less concerned about that. Yeah. So I think it's a great discussion. And I too, along with the mayor, I don't see the need to go year round and add additional staff at this point. Well, we just can't. But certainly focusing on those trails, lighting, getting them hard surface accessible, and extending the season on them, and even if it's not year round. So I would be interested to know if Councillor Quinn or Brennan or Miller have thoughts as well. So if you're okay with that, could we wrap it up at a nearly not too distant count?
Absolutely. So, and I think just the question I would pose is we do have capital dollars allocated. And so I think if I can be so bold as to ask for some homework from you in that conversation amongst yourselves and before we come back, if you can figure out how best you think that could be utilized. So do we want to operationalize those dollars? Do we want to start looking at how we can maybe utilize some of those for paving some of the trails in Lower Reach that is the highest use? I guess looking for some direction potentially around what is the highest and best use of that capital allocation. I'm happy to not do another report that will sit on somebody's P drive somewhere for time in perpetuity. But if we can make some action happen, I think that's really important. And we have, at this point, we've got some benches coming that will meet the need as outlined in the trail standards plan around rest stops for folks throughout some of those places that haven't had those historically through Lower Reach. And so can we augment some of that work, just to kind of put that out there? And then the other piece, if I could, part of the placemaking direction within the strategic initiative was to talk about activation as well. And so just looking for some clarity around what does that mean to folks around this horseshoe? Does it mean that we have a dance party every, on solstice, or what does it look like? Do we groom? I mean, you're welcome to come too, Clerk Costello, but are we grooming trails for activity in the winter? Or what does that look like in terms of activation? Is it events? Those types of things. So just putting some thoughts out there.
Well, the thought I shared with you earlier today is I know part of the trail development included shrubbery and trees, and it's never a bad idea to invest in that. If you know the trail is going to be there, to invest in some trees along that, if you wanted to if you have the capital budget at this point, benches and trees and shrubs, and we'll get to the trails. But
Perfect.
That's just my 2 cents worth.
Well, and I'd be interested in seeing how much hard surface we could create on the trails for that amount, or a good portion of that amount. I don't know what it cost is per meter, but if we can get a few hundred meters done and the highest used areas, whether it be Lower Reach or
I think,
details on that.
and I'd have to, if I could just, I'd have to go back and confirm my notes, but I think we had a quote sitting around $250,000 for the entirety of Lower Reach. So the loop and then the extension and out onto the road. So
But could have got to almost a quarter of that done.
so. Now that was last year's prices, but who knows what it is this year.
And part of the consultation, I know Parks Canada's always, I'd like to know, I think it's next year we might hear on if their landscaping vision.
Yes, Mr. Chair. 2027 is the target year for their operational plan for the 3 lock stations in Smiths Falls. But I would add to that by saying I don't think pursuing hard surfacing of trails would conflict in any way in what they'll come up with. So we've had a good dialogue with the folks at Parks Canada, and collectively we don't see any barriers to moving ahead with some of our strategic priorities. We're not predicting they're going to conflict. But we do need to be mindful of the prohibition that's in place on hard surfacing trails that are within the 30-meter buffer or distance from the high water mark along the canal. So we have initiated a dialogue with Parks Canada. They've agreed to review the position they've taken in the past. So we'll keep council apprised if there's any deviation from that past practice.
So thank you. In summary, what I've heard is there's not a rush to go year round at this point. There is an interest in expanding perhaps the season, not year round, but later into the fall. And I'm hearing what opportunities there are for, with our limited capital, to improve some high use trails, knowing that there's a greater vision. And Councillor McGuire.
Yeah, sorry, just on the second point of expanding the season, outside of garbage collection, what other costs are we thinking of, are involved, I guess, that we wouldn't be thinking about?
So that's a really good question. If I could, through the chair, it would be, we'd be looking at just general maintenance. So the more people that are in the park, obviously we have more things to do. assuming, I mean, nobody really knows how long the growing season will go, but the growing season last year went significantly longer than we anticipated. And so we were on the mowers when we were trying to flood the rink. So that's not normal, but it's not abnormal. I mean, who knows what's happening with the climate these days. So there would be some implications in terms of the individuals that are operational within the park itself. We can extend the duration of the playgrounds. To open it up earlier might be challenging, because if the ground is not soft enough, then obviously we wouldn't be meeting the legislative requirement around through falls and the fall protection, but we could potentially extend. So that means that we'd be doing inspections weekly, as we do on all of our play structures. So that's something that is quite labor intensive for a couple of our staff. So there's definitely implications there. And then also anytime we're in the park or out on the trails, then we're actually away from the arena. And those dates sort of line up perfectly, as it is right now, with the close of the season or the reduction of the ice season and the opening of the parks. So, and the opposite way in the fall. So there are implications there.
Is this the kind of feedback you were? Okay.
Yes.
So we're on target.
Yes.
And we'll just, when we come back, we'll summarize what we've already said.
Perfect.
Make sure their colleagues agree with it, and then add anything else.
Okay.
All right. And you'll tell us if you're short on specific. Okay.
Perfect. All right.
Theo Morris?
Yeah, just one more item, Mr. Chair. So just to plant a seed, we've been having some discussions about tendering the parking lot reconstruction and hard surfacing at Lower Reach. And we think, correct me if I'm wrong, there may be some savings within the $750,000 budget from 2025, correct? Yeah. So we could structure the tender to do to build on the synergies of the paving crews already being there and look at hard surfacing more trails. So just a food for thought, we may incorporate that into the tender package as an appendix to see, or as an option rather, to see how far we could go with that, provided we're not within 30 meters of the canal.
And if I could, sorry, Malcolm, Theo Morris, the bulk of the trails in Lower Reach are outside of that 30-meter setback. There's only a small portion that would be within it. So we could do, without Parks Canada's conversation being involved, the bulk of the trails in Lower Reach. So. And
I've heard consensus from this side of the desk tonight that doing that is consistent with, so it might be a win-win for sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great questions. 9.2 Health and Safety Water Stream Transfer Payment Agreement, which is my favorite subject tonight on this agenda.
Yeah, thank you,
Director
Mr. Chair.
McMahon, welcome.
A theme here this evening, I guess. So, yeah, so I'm here to talk about the Health and Safety Water Stream, particularly the Transfer Payment Agreement. So this evening, Council is being asked to authorize the Mayor and Clerk to execute a transfer payment agreement with the province to secure $13.3 million, roughly, in provincial funding for the trunk water main upgrade and sewer separation project. This project was identified through the 2019 municipal class environmental assessment that was completed by J.L. Richards as critical to ensuring adequate domestic and fire flow supply to the new water tower. The preferred alignment for this project for the trunk water main proper covers approximately 1.9 kilometers of a roadway corridor from Chambers Street at Empress Avenue, so that intersection, to the water tower on Air Care Drive across from the Public Works Yard. In addition to improving water transmission capacity, the project will result in the full replacement of aged underground infrastructure as well as surface infrastructure, including sanitary sewer mains, storm sewer mains, being a sewer separation. Right now we have a combined sewer through that whole corridor area. And it will deliver significant long-term asset renewal and risk reduction for the town. So the town applied for funding under the Health and Safety Water Stream, which is facilitated through the Municipal Housing and Infrastructure Program. It will fund 73% of eligible costs. The total eligible project cost is approximately $18.2 million, with the province contributing 13.3 million and the town responsible for the remaining roughly 4.9 million dollars. Detailed design for phase 1 of the project is currently underway by EVB Engineering, with tendering anticipated for late March to early April of 2026, so this spring. Construction will be delivered in 3 phases between 2026 and 2028, so 2026, 2027, and 2028, with required project completion by March 31st, 2029. So we want to ensure that we get completed towards the end of the fall in 2028, so we're not dealing with winter construction through till March of 2029. So approval of this agreement is required to formally secure the provincial funding and allow the project to proceed on schedule for the town. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions. This is a good news story here this evening, which is simply asking for council's concurrence for the mayor and clerk to enter an agreement with the province.
I'm sure everyone would say yes. Do you know yet if there are opportunities to either reduce sidewalks or add sidewalks? Do you know what that? Because some of them are sidewalks on both sides, and I don't know what I thought our policy, well, not policy, but our preference was if there's an opportunity to reduce the sidewalk, we sometimes will consider it. Do you know if that's part of the equation? And some there's no sidewalks.
So through the chair, the the balance of the project being phase 2 and phase 3, base plans have been generated, but we haven't really got into the detailed design yet of what that's going to look like. Certainly, if it's council's interest and we want to eliminate a sidewalk on one side or the other, at some point we'll need to know that information if we want to make that service reduction.
But that would come from you. It wouldn't. I'm not suggesting it. I'm not sure, but I think Empress doesn't have any sidewalks. So it,
right,
a place there you'd add, but
yeah. So it'll be. We'll look at the provisions of the annual average daily traffic count and whether or not a sidewalk on either side is warranted based on the traffic patterns in the area. But to your point, we'll certainly make sure that for the areas that do not have sidewalks, that they'll have compliant 1.5 meter wide sidewalks. Yes.
Councilor McGuire.
And if we're putting a new sidewalk in, or we're taking out a sidewalk, how do we make sure that the sidewalk that's going to be put in place is on the sunnier side of the street?
Is on the which side of the street?
Like the side that gets the most sun for maintenance.
Well, yeah, so that would mean sidewalks will be on the west side or the south side of the road, right? Yeah, so like I'd mentioned, we haven't really quite drilled down on the detailed design yet, so that's forthcoming. So we'll certainly look at that if we're going to simply put a sidewalk in on one side and not the other. But if it does constitute sidewalks on both sides, then that'll be a bit of a moot point. So, right.
Mayor Panker.
Yeah, the sewer separation is also a very encouraging part of this. I assume we have data which tells us how many different, sewer mains are feeding. Is there a main sewer main going through this neighborhood and all the way down Rideau that would capture a lot of side street sewers coming in?
Correct.
Including if we got out of the Montague section of Adirondacks and stuff as well, right? So eventually it would be to truly benefit from the full sewer separation, we would have to be doing all of the side streets that feed in as well.
Yes, through the chair. Yeah, we'll certainly look at that in future years, and that'll all kind of dovetail in with our asset management plan. I guess the scope of the project is to primarily replace the 12-inch trunk water main that we have going through that corridor and upgrade it to a 16-inch to supply the required water for fire and domestic uses to the water tower. But paired with that is the fact that we do have a combined sewer down through the area. So we're doing a sewer separation, putting in a dedicated storm sewer, as well as a new sanitary line as well. So that does encompass the corridor, not the extremities being the side streets that are connecting to that. So, but certainly in the future, I mean, I'm sure there'll be other funding mechanisms that come through from either the province or the feds that we can certainly look towards down the future for funding opportunities to address some of those other streets as well.
Thank you.
So it's with full joy and compliance that this council support you signing that agreement, and it's wonderful. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you.
CEO Morris?
Yeah, I would point out that through the leadership of this council, we've secured remarkably close to $20 million so far in 2026 between this funding program, the Connecting Link, and the pothole program. It's close to $20 million in 2 months.
Great. Thank you.
What do we do for March?
It's a high bar.
Fill the bottles. Thank you very much. We're moving along to Clerk Costello is going to talk about election signage policy.
Thank you. You're not having deja vu. I did bring this forward before. However, some information came to light, so I'm bringing this forward again. So the last committee of the whole, we discussed some minor revisions to the election signage bylaw. At that time, Councillor McGuire mentioned that nominations or election signs weren't permitted back in 2022 before Labor Day. I went back into my reports and I couldn't find it there, but I went back into the minutes and it was a subject that you had indeed brought up in 2022 and was implemented and in effect for 2022, I can report, however, overlooked when I wrote my first report. So I come back this evening, first to apologize, and second to get your concurrence on how you want to proceed. With 2 items. The first asking when you would prefer election signage to be posted, if you want to stay with your original decision to be nomination day, or if you'd like to stay with Labor Day. As a reminder, nomination day is August 21st, or nomination day is August 21st, and Labor Day is September 7th, 2026. And the second question was regarding the actual enforcement provision. If council prefers to give the candidate sufficient time to remove the signs, or if we want to give bylaw officers the power to enforce and simply remove signs that are not compliant with the bylaw.
Great. Thank you for going back and checking. No need to apologize. That's why we keep minutes. Councilor McGuire?
Thank you. So yeah, I still prefer the Labor Day. And I remember from 4 years ago, there was 3 good reasons that we supported that. The first was that it's outside of the peak tourist season, so we're not cluttering the town with the signs during the summer. The second is that every time there's a storm that goes through, they get blown around, so there's less weeks that could happen. And the third that I remember was there's a cost associated with the bylaw enforcement. So if we take a couple of weeks off that, then the bylaw officers don't have to worry about one more thing on their plate for 2 extra weeks. And I think it worked well in the last election. I don't think there was any issue with getting the signs out there, getting the names out there. When it comes to the enforcement question in the report, my preference would be if they remove the signs that are non-compliant, and then if there's a fine, if there's a $5 fine to get them back from the town to help cover the enforcement costs, then that gives a disincentive to put them where they're not supposed to be and gives some cost recovery. But I don't like the idea of destroying them, but I don't like the idea of leaving them up because then they've got to go back and keep checking for them. So those would be my 2 suggestions for tonight.
Well, let's start with the first one, Labor Day or nomination day, or post-Labor Day.
I'm fine with Labor Day. Me too.
So yeah, I am as well. I don't think that will be, it worked last time. And now the second one is, do we want the first, if a complaint came in about where the sign was improperly posted in a place it shouldn't be, do we send it right to bylaw, or the first call is to the candidate, please come and remove your sign, it's in the wrong spot. I think that's what you're talking about. So Councillor McGuire suggested we use bylaw to do that. Just pick them up, remove them, and then they don't get back unless there's a stipend. Other thoughts, comments?
I just try to minimize the work of bylaw, knowing that they're busy with a lot of other things. If a quick call to a candidate says your signs here are not supposed to be here, come and get them. If they're here at the same time tomorrow, we will pick them up and destroy them. Because even if bylaw's got to pick them up and bring them here and store them here, and someone's got to come and pick them up. But just put the onus on the candidate, I think, in my preference.
Councillor Robinson, any thoughts?
I agree with you.
So let the candidate be responsible, give them a shout. And I'm assuming it'd be town staff that would be making that call. Is that reasonable?
Yes, I think that's perfectly reasonable, but we would need clarity on how long we give the candidate to remove the sign. Does the policy state that now?
The policy doesn't state that. If it's during, my suggestion would be shorter, would be a shorter time period would be better, simply because some of them do pose some, can impede traffic or pedestrian traffic. Depending on the time of day, I think a minute, like a maximum of 12 hours with what we'd give if there was a situation where it's impeding traffic or it's not safely secured, by law would remove those.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would do, if it was a safety issue, you just go ahead and remove them, but is 24 hours reasonable, or you're suggesting 12, but the 24?
Yeah, I think 24.
24.
24?
Great.
Thank you.
So you'll make those adjustments?
I will.
Great, thank you very
Thank you.
much. 9.4, Steve Morris is going to talk about a property gift.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So back in September of 2022, the council of the day had entered an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with Carebridge Community Support. And the essence of the MOU was that if Carebridge could secure funding to build an affordable housing project, that the town would donate the land for that purpose. Both parties felt at the time it makes sense for us to retain ownership until it happens. We've defined the trigger point. That it hasn't happened, as you're aware, at this point. And the MOU does expire in September of this year. So we will bring that back probably with a couple months lead notice. We've talked to Carebridge. They're still working on it. They're trying to find funding, and I'm sure they will, but it's a matter of timing. So with that said, there is a piece of property that's adjacent to the triangular shaped piece of property on Robinson Avenue. And we looked at it from the point of view, well, firstly, it was provided as a gift. There's an offer to gift the land to the town of Smiths Falls. The former owner had passed away several years ago. The executor of the estate wishes to gift it to the town for the purposes of encouraging and facilitating affordable housing. The lot itself is not large enough. It's a very small lot, very small frontage. The rear section is very narrow. But we believe that there's value in the property to provide accessory space for the main property on Robinson. So by providing perhaps parking, perhaps green space, perhaps other ancillary space, we can maximize the buildable footprint on Robinson Avenue. So for those reasons, we're recommending to council that we accept the gift. It's not without cost. There is a structure on site that's not structurally sound. There are two structures, actually, a house and an accessory building, a garage, that we believe both would need to be demolished. We've estimated the cost of that work to be $25,000. There are some other costs, primarily legal costs. Paying out the mortgage. The reason we would do that is the estate does not have the capacity to pay out the mortgage. So the offer, the gift is on an as-is basis with those liabilities in place. We estimate the liabilities total around $38,000. An appraisal of the property set the value at $33,000. So the liabilities slightly exceed the value of the property. But we think the real value is in maximizing the footprint on the adjacent property. So we're recommending that council accept the gift.
Comments or questions, Mayor Panko?
Sure. Thank you for the report, C.M. Morris. And one, I guess I'm confident Carebridge will eventually be able to build development on this property. And I've had conversations with them 2 or 3 times a year since we formed the agreement, and of course they're still committed to. It's a matter of finding the funding opportunities. Of course, they built a project of 44 chambers, and that was after a few attempts at different funding envelopes before they finally found one that would work. So I know that will come together at some point in time. And the location of this property, it makes absolute sense. If it allows more density on the property, if it allows for parking, if it allows for a parkette or something, and it just enables better development on the property, Robinson Avenue. And so I want to just express, I guess, gratitude to Mr. Johnston, who initiated this process, indicated he wanted to try and help improve the housing outcomes for people in the community, and an opportunity recognizing the property behind and the connectivity would hopefully make a benefit for somebody down the road. So thanks, Keith, for your support.
Any other thoughts or comments? Is there support for this recommendation? Yes, there is. Absolutely. It's a great idea. It fits beautifully with our vision for Robinson Avenue. So I too want to thank the donor. This is great. I know it costs a little money, but well worth it. So yes, great answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have no in-camera items. Committee, board, or external organization updates. Anybody? Seeing none at this time. I don't believe we have any correspondence. No notice of motion, so I'll seek a motion that the committee adjourn its proceedings at 5:47 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called committee meeting. Moved by Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor McGuire. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much.